obvious way is to hold a panel like this and hope a lot of people watch it, including men. Well, I think everyone in this room would like to see an end to violence, an end to terrorism, or reduction in it. And one of the things that has been most vivid in my mind in the last, certainly the last 3 or 4 years, has been the basic exclusion of women from the peace process. If you ask men to get together and negotiate a peace process, they're dealing with large communities or even nations. If you ask women to get involved in the peace process, they're thinking about their own home, they're thinking about their children, the impact of violence on what they love personally. So it's a much deeper and most fervent commitment. And quite often they are excluded, as you pointed out in your statistics, where only about 1 out of every 40 women are directly involved in negotiating a peace agreement. And this is something that we overlook. But I think the basic reason that women are excluded is because not only from the peacekeeping process, but also from other aspects of life. If it's a very poor family, for instance, in Africa or Asia or Latin America or wherever, the parents put their boys first because they have the erroneous idea that in their old age, if they don't have Social Security, that their boys will take care of them. As a matter of fact, it's much more likely that the girls will take care of their mom and dad than the boy, but quite often they deprive their girls of a chance for education and a good job so they can support their family. Another thing you have to remember is that even in rich countries like ours, women are basically excluded. For instance, let's take the Fortune 500 companies as a matter of fact. That's 500 companies. Women are CEO in only 23 of them. And I've done an analysis that shows that those women get paid less than the men who are CEOs of other countries. And so we know, too, that in this country as well, that women are deprived of the right to hold political office. And it's the people in the top political offices that quite often negotiate the peace agreements. And they're quite often involved with armies and things of that kind instead of the human things. And this means that on a worldwide basis, only 23% of women of political office are held by women. In the United States, it's not 23, it's 15%. I don't know what the election showed you yesterday, but I think that in general, the elections yesterday were discouraging. I won't go into that detail. So we see that quite often women are excluded from the very beginning of our lives from active participation in a leadership role so that they can use their innate ability and desire for peace to promote negotiation. So I think in many ways they are deprived. I've been familiar with one country, for instance, the Carter Center has many programs there now, in addition to Ebola, and that's Liberia. And one of the Nobel Peace Laureates a couple of years ago was a woman who didn't have any authority, but she started just demonstrating against 14 years of war under Charles Taylor, who was the previous warlord. And she just insisted that women would join her, and eventually she forced Charles Taylor, who was a dictator and who was wanting to continue war, to stop and look for a while. So she even followed him to Ghana where there was a peace process, and she negotiated so fervently with other women joining her that they finally had to have peace. And that means that you mentioned the 31 peace process that hadn't been permanent. That one so far has been permanent, and one of the results of that has been that another woman who also helped for peace is now the president of Liberia, the first woman president in Africa who that ever existed. So those are the kind of things that come to my mind just to answer your question as briefly as I could.